We get to the parking lot at your parents' church, and you just turn to me and you just go, "Hey Dan, how long have you had Tourette's for?" And I'm like going, "What do you mean?" I'm like going, "I'm a little jet lagged. I've got like a couple of Red Bulls in me, but
what did I do?
I didn't do anything to indicate Tourette's." And then he just turns and he goes, "Are you interested in cactus?" And I went, "You know what? I am." The last thing the world needs is another pastor who makes it sound like that life is easy and that you've got it all together. We just need people who are real. In this fake, faux, filtered world, like authenticity is the new currency. There are some parts of walking with Jesus that is, you just gotta bite down and get through it, because that's relationship, that's discipline. But I do hope that the small things they do remember was that I was kind and that I really love Jesus. And the thought of him loving me made me weep.
Watch this though. Check this out. So it's like the ultimate selfie video thing.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, let me do it this way.
That's like the ultimate selfie video. It really is.
Watch this. It's gonna track your face. Oh, it's not gonna rotate around, Matt. What happened? Wow, that was really cool that I showed you it didn't work.
Come on, technology.
Matt, it's not rotating. There we go.
Double.
Oh, I think I just had it the wrong way. So like, move your face around. Isn't that kind of dope?
Yeah, sick.
Okay, so we do like a bunch of different B-roll. We'll probably use this content. Just say something about how you love Jesus or golf.
I love Jesus, golf, and Wendell Jake McKinney. Jesus won, golf and Wendell Jake interchangeable.
Facts.
There was a TV show called Kung Fu. Okay, there was like an actor named David Carradine, and he was a white guy. And that role was originally written for Bruce Lee.
No way.
But network television in America couldn't get their mind around an Asian lead, male. So they gave it to this white guy named David Carradine. And every episode was the same. He would just wake up and then walk to another town and get into an adventure. He'd find someone to fight. He'd find a lady that was being oppressed by a landlord and beat the landlord up. He'd find like some kind of crazy like kidnap ring and he would break
like
up
the
kid.
A-Team.
It's like the A-Team, but one guy doing it kung fu. And for some reason that went in so deep that's what Christianity was meant to be like. It was just meant to feel like just kung fu, getting into adventures every day.
Is that how you had...
So that's the reason I do what I do.
That's how you come up with Gospel Ninja?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, it's from that story?
Yeah, I'm just every day just show up and I'm just get into adventures. So I don't like travel, and that's a blessing.
Yeah,
it's a blessing. So I'm in New York for the next 2 weeks. New York, Charleston, Dallas, Miami.
Wow.
And Vegas. That's my...
Where are you going in Vegas?
Jabins, yeah. Yabin.
Haben
Havis.
Did you see, I'm sure you probably talk with him more frequently than I, but I saw him at the Zoe Pastors Gathering, the new building they're getting.
Oh, it's sick.
Looks like it's incredible, right?
It's from where it came from. I remember standing in a empty parking lot, which was what it was. It was like this next to a factory, this like loose gravel parking lot. It goes, "That's gonna be our church." I'm like, "Okay, buddy."
Excited for you, bro.
Yeah, exciting. We're gonna try to get the next one next to the piece next to it. I'm going, okay, well, good luck with that. It's gonna be good. It is gonna be. Look at this setting, my friend.
I know. Do you guys mind if I close this? I'm just a little chilly.
Close it. You can close it.
Matt, are you okay? Oh, that actually really relieved my legs.
Yeah.
Are we live yet?
Wendell Jake is just a little sensitive to the cold.
Oh,
poor little Wendell Jake.
It actually is so funny growing up in San Diego, now that I've moved around.
Yeah.
How pampered I was my whole life. I even remember being, in high school, whatever, and be like, dude, we don't have any seasons. And now, having lived in Seattle and then now in the Phoenix area, I'm like, wow. Yeah. San Diego is literally, I think, the best weather in the world.
It is. It's God needed a little climate control room for the weaker amongst us.
Yeah.
And obviously the McKinney family fell within that little, that little swathe. And but yeah, Melbourne's the same way. Like where I'm from.
That's what you were saying. But Melbourne is a little bit more artsy, right?
Melbourne is it's an art culture capital.
But the
It's amazing.
temperature is just
Melbourne's
mild
like
and
San
nice.
Francisco.
Okay.
So the Pacific Ocean, West Coast, East Coast of Australia share the Pacific Ocean equator, and then basically above the equator and below the equator, effectively, like San Diego's like Queensland, and then LA's like Sydney, Melbourne's like San Francisco. So a little cooler, a little windier.
Besides Sydney and Brisbane and Melbourne, or I guess that's not even the right way to ask it, how high in the rankings of known cities to Aussies would Melbourne be? Would it be like number 2? Would it be number 3?
Melbourne right now is the most populous city in Australia.
For real?
It's out because it's a great city.
You've always told me this. I need to go.
It is a great city. It is a great city. Sydney is the most famous city.
Right.
Because of...
It's the capital, the opera house.
It's not the capital. No,
oh my gosh,
Canberra.
look, why am I telling you about your own country?
No, Canberra is the administrative capital of Australia. And Canberra is like Julian. So you just picture like...
Julian, California.
Julian, California is the capital of...
It literally
the US.
feels like that?
It does, because it is. It was a country town between Melbourne and Sydney.
So it just made it easy for some reason?
Yes, so Sydney was the most populous city. Melbourne was an administrative capital. They were trying to find something in between that could become the national capital, and Canberra became it.
Wow.
And but it does feel like rolling into... People don't know Julian, but you and I
we know
Julian, California.
It's so good.
And so it's like Temecula. It's like Temecula is where the capital is. And but yeah, so Melbourne is a great city because Sydney is the famous one. It's the loud, brash, blonde older sister that everyone loves, and
That's
there's beaches, and there's an opera house there, and there's the Olympics were there, but Melbourne is like the cool, understated, cosmopolitan, dark-haired sister with better fashion sense. And Melbourne is like an organized city because it was designed on a grid.
Oh, that's
on
cool.
a grid.
Phoenix is actually like that. It's been really shocking
it's
for me.
so much easier to get around, to access things,
Dude,
to enjoy things.
you can drive the entire length of what everyone in Maricopa or Phoenix area call the valley just on one road.
Yeah.
Like from one set of mountains to the other through the entire thing. It's weird to me. But you're saying Melbourne is like that.
Sydney is like...
Sydney's like that, or Melbourne?
Sydney was a population explosion.
Okay.
And it's landlocked because of waterways. And so if you're in the southern part of Sydney, the Sutherland Shire, I've got a lot of friends who are down that way. They will never go up north because it's just so hard to navigate your way through. Whereas Melbourne was like just a giant piece of land, and they just drew these parallel roads vertically and horizontally. So King Street, William Street, Queen Street, Elizabeth Street, boom, 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 boom. And it's just easy to get around. And I mean, because of that, multiculturalism is different there. Whereas in Sydney, there's a lot of multiculturalism, but they're kind of landlocked. They stay where their people are. In Melbourne, everyone's my people. So if I want to eat Greek in the morning, I'm driving to the Oakley area. If I want Vietnamese for dinner, I go to the Springvale area. If you like some Middle Eastern food, I go up to Brunswick. Like everything is accessible. You got to go see it.
I need to. You've been telling me this since I know. We should plan it.
I've been telling you this for nearly 2 decades.
Seriously. It's actually, I was about to laugh because I feel like the exact conversation we have just had, we probably had at least 5 or 6 times, and every time we're like, we'll go.
We'll go one day.
And now we're 49 and almost 34, and we have not gone yet, but it'll happen.
Okay.
We'll take the whole fam. It'll be good.
By the time,
How often do you go back?
We got to go back to Australia for the first time in 5 years this past Christmas.
How was it?
Amazing, overwhelming, exhausting. But we went for, we got to have a month.
No way.
Have a month hanging out and just reconnecting. And so we haven't been able to leave the United States since basically 2020.
How did you get the approval to go? Because you're obviously still waiting on all the documents.
Yeah, we're waiting for documentation and green cards and basically a special application for a travel permit. Finally came through. And then we were able to... Krista and I went for 4 weeks. The kids came for 2 weeks. And
it's epic.
It was good. It was good. Like, Australian summers are amazing.
Why?
Summertime in Australia, especially Melbourne, because Melbourne is food and art and fashion and sport. There's great. So the Australian Tennis Open is down in Melbourne during summertime, and there's a really big game in Australia called cricket, and and the biggest cricket match of the year happens right there the day after Christmas. So I got to go to that cricket match and hang out with 100,000 Australians who love beer, just singing together. It's a vibe.
I have to ask this. I didn't even plan on it, but are you super proud of the show Bluey? You've heard of the show?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is. I've heard of it.
Dude, it is incredible. Your kids are too old for you to be watching it, but maybe when you get grandkids.
Well, years ago when I first started preaching in America, it always used to be throw another shrimp on the Barbie.
Oh, yeah.
And then a couple of years after that, the next generation flowed through with crikey. And now I have people come and go, oh yeah, Bluey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can tell how like sociologists like split time with
so good.
You're the boomers and you're the Gen X, you're Gen Y, you guys are the edge of millennials, you're a Z, you're an alpha. No, for me it's you're a shrimp on the Barbie, you're a that's not a knife, this is a knife. You're a crikey person. You're a younger person who's like a Bluey person. That's so how good. I separate the generations.
Bro, for what it's worth, not that I need to be a Bluey apologist, but that show is absolutely splendid.
I've heard
just
that.
Splendid.
I've heard.
So fun.
It's wholesome. And
it's wholesome. And the nice thing is, as I'm sure you knew, obviously your kids are now in college, which is crazy. When we sat down a moment ago, I'm like, are your kids in high school now? Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I'm now a guy who's old enough to not realize that you have full-on grown adults in college. But
it happens.
The beautiful thing about this show, and I cannot help but recommend it, is it's so pleasant to listen to. And the behavior of the family, the mom and the dad and the two daughters and their friend group is just so real and hilarious. Like, it's brilliant writing, fun animation, and it's pleasant. There's so many shows out there for kids that are so, for lack of a better term, annoying to listen to. Kind of like whiny, complainy, rude, but it's none of that. It's wonderful.
Yeah. There's something,
and the Aussie accent to Americans is just so pleasant too.
There's something deep inside of the human soul that loves and values things that are wholesome, noble, upright, praiseworthy. and Bluey must strike that chord, because the amount of people who ask me about it and then say what you just said, it's so cool, and the family don't. And I was like, okay, cool. I would say I'd check it out, but I'm not going to check it out.
No need.
I'm right now at that age where my content consumption sits around at 9 o'clock at night, whatever's on Hulu for me and my wife to watch.
Yes.
Whatever series there is, I'll watch 1 hour of TV. Crystal will fall asleep in the first 15 minutes of it. I'll be mad at her.
Like, babe, you said you were going to watch it.
You said you wanted to watch this.
Well, it's the worst, too, because then, I don't know if this happens for you, but when it's a show you both plan to watch and you can't really miss something, and you're like, but if you fall asleep, I can't watch it.
No.
So what am I supposed to do?
And it's like, at so many levels.
Yeah.
It hurts because we're not sharing anything. It feels like this is what we're doing in this season of our life. Yeah. We're sharing this TV show, and you're not sharing it. You obviously don't care enough. Sure, you're working hard and keeping our lives together, but you're not caring to share it. Second of all, I need to now double pay attention because I'm now explaining it afterwards when you could have just stayed awake and watched it. Now I'm staying up later trying to explain. No, they're all under the ground now. It's actually, the sun is actually, this is like a stage, and this is all like a hyper reality. And then the third piece that hits you sometimes is you'll get together the night after, and she'll just go, can we watch like yesterday's episode again? Like, I explained it and watched it. now we have to watch it again.
Bro, one of my favorite things I keep finding, I don't know if it's just getting older, but I feel like so many of us, and maybe it's in the family of faith or maybe it's outside of it, but I feel like we're all living parallel lives. Like the way that you described your dynamic with your wife in a show is the same thing I've described that all my friends. It's like, no, who fell asleep? Recently, we've been getting into watching a sitcom, like whether it's The Office or something like that, or New Girl or whatever before bed. Like we finally get the kids in bed. And I've been getting tired faster than her for whatever reason. Yeah. And she's like ready to watch a few more. I'm like, do you want to turn off? She's like, are you serious?
Yeah.
You're so lame.
Yeah.
Like, no, let's just go to bed. She's like, no, come on, keep watching. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we
it's so good.
We can't do those we can't do sitcom-y things. We lose interest a little too quickly. We are well and truly in that demographic of we need to find some kind of political drama.
Yes.
That has the equal power to draw you in and to put you into a deep state of sleep.
Absolutely.
Which is a tough dichotomy. These two things are equally real.
Did you ever watch 24 back in the day?
No. I am not 24. We were Alias.
Okay.
Back in the day.
That was
Jennifer,
amazing too.
Old school, 1990s,
Incredible.
early 2000s, Jennifer Garner.
And
Alias.
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Before Bradley Cooper was Bradley Cooper.
When he was just a subplot.
He was a subplot. He was like the nerdy semi-love interest. And look at him now.
Crazy. The glow up, as they say.
The epitome of the 21st century glow up. Old Bradley Philly cheesesteak making Cooper.
Not that you probably care, but have you watched much of Timothy Chalamet recently?
I've not. No, I've seen reference. My daughter thinks he's cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just don't know much about.
So the reason I ask, obviously, you're a big American college football fan.
Yeah.
Clemson forever. He obviously is an incredible actor and maybe should have won whatever. I don't really watch all the Oscars, but he's incredible and will probably win sometime and seems like the hottest actor right now. But there was a recent clip. Matt, he was on SportsCenter, right? Or Pat McAfee show. Did you see that? Who Timothy Chalamet. Do you remember this? He went on basically when the playoffs started and was doing the predictions. And for the way that he comes across as an actor and like a New York art school kid, you would never think of it. But bro, for guys like you and I that have such an appreciation for American college football, I was shocked. Yeah. Like the predictions he's making based on stats and lines, and it was awesome.
And that makes sense because that's what's interesting about college football.
Absolutely.
The drama. If you are artistic, if you love storyline, if you love narrative, there is nothing like college football because it's unpredictable because being 18 to 21 just means you're unpredictable, and there isn't like one league. There's like 150 teams that are all kind of moving in all these different leagues that are strong one year and not as strong as another year. And so if you were into drama, if you loved watching soap operas growing up, it is a sport that can scratch that itch as well. So I like that about, like, he's the guy from Dune, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's the Dune guy. Like,
Hassan Al-Gaib.
So he's American?
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was French.
I think he is a French American. I think that, like, if you Google his name, I think, but he was born in the U.S. For sure. Actually, I don't know for sure if he was born in the U.S., but he's
I thought he was a
American.
British guy with a French name living in America.
It sounds like it, and even has like the little thing over the E or something.
Yeah,
like
a
that.
little accent there.
But he's incredible. My wife and I, one of the movies we like to do, we'll have more classic films that we'll watch, but not really watch, just have it in the background. It feels like having friends over. The Little Women film, the recent one directed by Greta Gerwig, he's like the main male character in it. And he's just a great actor. But yeah, he has to be, I think he's French American, but mainly American. I don't know.
Well, anyway,
he's great.
I'll inquire more.
Just go ask your daughter. It'll be great. What was it like in South Carolina this year with Clemson making it to the playoff? Were people happy with that?
Is this like a college football podcast?
No, but now I can't help but ask. It can be. Sorry, It can be. When Dan Lian is on the podcast, it's a college football podcast.
I like sport. Like, God has opened up so many doors throughout the years to just journey people in athletics and sports.
Yeah, for me, it's cool knowing how much you've always loved sports and obviously your avid love for golf. I know when you were coming back and forth from Australia and when we first became boys, and then when you decided to move to Anderson, and then you became even more ingrained with like, obviously pastoring and loving and preaching to so many Clemson football players. It's cool for me to have watched, but I'm genuinely curious just as a college football fan because I've always loved Dabo. Yeah. And I've always had an affinity for Clemson, and I'm curious what it's like there because obviously it hasn't been what it was, but there's at least making it to the playoff this year was probably, I would consider a win, but I'm curious what it's like for someone who lives
it was
there.
When I first moved to South Carolina, I got told that there's two religions here. There's Jesus and there's football. and I found that to be the case, and maybe not even in that order. And so football, college football is massive. In the South, and where I live in the upstate of South Carolina, Clemson is king. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I moved to South Carolina, the state of South Carolina, during like a real renaissance period for them, it was cool. And to have a bunch of the coaches and staff and support staff and players who come to our church, it's been cool to journey and to go on the ride and it was cool. It was like the last couple of years have been, again, it's like the storyline, it's the drama of it, right? And it's we should be good, and things didn't go as well as we'd hoped. But then there are other years where it's like, man, he's a freshman quarterback. How far can we go? And they climb to the top of a mountain. So it's those up and downs. But yes, things are good in old Clemson, South Carolina. The water is clear. The skies are orange and purple at night, and the expectation and anticipation is very high around old South Carolina.
It's so funny. I feel like do you think we met, would that have been maybe like 2011 or something like that?
No, we met
after that? 2015?
We met in 2008.
Are you serious?
How old were you in 2008?
Oh, man.
I can tell you exactly where we met.
Okay.
Okay. So this my timeline is this. So it's 2000. It's 2007. I come and speak at GC camp in Seattle.
Okay.
And one of the guys who was hosting me was a guy named Jesse McKinney.
So old school, man.
This model,
smooth
cat. I remember him driving me around and taking me to an EA Sports, EA Games.
Was it like an arcade?
And it sold video games, and Jesse was the character in one of those.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what store you went to, but he was the model that played some random guy in Left 4 Dead 2.
So I'm jet lagged. I'm just here trying to preach. And
did he voluntarily take you there?
He voluntarily said, "Let me take you to this video game store, and I'm going to show you myself."
How quick into you guys meeting?
Like not even an hour. Like,
dude, he is the greatest.
Pick me up. Hey, my name's Jesse. I'm driving you around. That's great. Do you play video games? I don't.
He asked you.
Yeah, and do you know the game Left 4 Dead? And I'm saying, like I said, I don't play video games. He goes, I'm in one of them. Let's go have a look. And next we're walking around a mall somewhere in like Bellevue.
Oh my God.
And we're looking at, and I'm seeing this. So I hang out with Jesse.
Yeah.
And Jesse becomes my dude.
Yeah.
And that was like a really fun, that was, Judah with a frolic and some tips. And Pastor Jude Fuquay singing Jesus Take the Wheel on the way to camp, and all the Fuquay boys, just tiny but they wrestle. and I remember that camp we came in on a helicopter.
Are you serious?
There was a helicopter involved somehow.
You were on it?
No, Judah came down in a helicopter, dressed as someone, I'm guessing, from the Matrix.
For the games or something?
I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. I know there was like a helicopter. I remember that's the first time I ever saw like a large group of homeschoolers in one place. It was like a deep experience. And then just hanging out and really connecting with Jesse, just loving Jesse. And then it coming up, like at some point during that trip that I needed to go and visit like the McKinney family down in San Diego, because they're like family of the Smiths and they've got a great church down there. And the very first time we met was I was preaching for Muzz,
Yeah.
and then I was coming to speak for you after, and you picked me up.
Yeah.
And-
And Muzz called.
and Muzz-
Muzz calls and he goes, "Hey, I just want y'all to know." I don't know why I went Southern. I couldn't do an Aussie accent.
Do the Aussie accent.
Give me a couple words so I can get primed.
I just want you to know.
I just want you to know, mate.
That's terrible. Don't do it.
It's terrible. You're right. But he in his unique way, just one of the greatest pranksters and jokesters
The
of all
worst
time.
and the best human being that I know.
Yeah.
James
So
Murray.
he tells like our executive staff that you have Tourette's.
Yes. Matt, have you heard this one before?
So, bro, he tells like Gabby and Jenny and all these people, Gabe, Nick, whoever, and I'm supposed to go pick him up. I'm hosting him. That
He
Dan
tells
Lian,
Gabby.
that Dan Lian has Tourette's, and so while I'm on my way there, like I'm literally going to get
Yeah.
in the car to go pick you up. I'm run down by I think my mom and Gabby, and they're going, "You need to make sure Wendell Jake listen to us." I'm like 19, however, I
Yeah.
don't know, 17. I don't know what it is. You need to listen. You need to find out if he's going to cuss on the stage. You need to find out. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, ask him if he has Tourette's.
So James Murray. James
Oh
Murray
my
gets
God.
called by Gabby. Okay. Alpha. Just phenomenal leader. Love Gabby.
Yeah.
All right. And then basically, like Gabby's, we're just making sure that you drop Pastor Dan off at the hotel, okay? Because Jake's gonna go pick him up. And then Muzz goes, yeah, great. We had a great weekend with him. Our young adults love him. You guys are gonna love him too. And his Tourette's is hardly playing up at all. And then Gabby goes, excuse me. And then
Tourette's is hardly
Yeah.
playing up at all.
And then Muzz just plays it. He goes, you do know that's Dan Lian's like big story. Like he's the preacher who's got Tourette's. And Gabby goes, we do not know that. And he goes, oh yeah, no, it's fine. He's got a few tics. He barely ever swears into the microphone. But you'll be fine. You'll have a great time. He was wonderful for us. And then Gabby,
I forgot he went that deep.
yeah, and then Gabby
God,
pushed even further. He goes, is there anything we have to take into consideration, like lighting, diet stuff? And then he goes, no, it's fine. It's fine. Just make sure that, look, he loves it when everyone knows about it, because he hates it when he's like ticking and people don't know why he's doing it. So you have to tell as many people.
Bro, the best part is like when I come to pick you up and then I ask you like, what? No,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
have Tourette's.
And so you find out while we're driving. So you pick me up. You kind of, you're just like I'm guessing you were the youth pastor at that stage.
I can't even remember.
You were picking me up. We were at
Probably.
that hotel up in 4S.
Maybe I was the junior high
What?
director. at the
No, the Rancho
RBN?
RB Inn. The RB Inn.
Yeah.
Nice little hotel there.
Yeah.
And we're coming back, and you got a text from Gabby
You're
saying,
right.
Jake, don't be alarmed.
Don't be alarmed.
Pastor Dan has Tourette's. So he's like, so this whole time I'm just doing me.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get to know him. Like I've got the connection with Jesse, and we're just like chatting, and I'm just trying to, and he's like just a little nervy. I remember you being nervy in the car. We get to the parking lot at your parents' church, and you just turn to me and you just go, hey Dan, how long have you had Tourette's for? And I'm like going, what do you mean? And I'm like going, I'm a little jet lagged. I've got like a couple of Red Bulls in me, but
What did I do?
I didn't do anything to indicate Tourette's. And then you're going, you have Tourette's. It's okay. I know. I'm like, I don't. And then you just go, what's this? And then that's the reason I know, because you showed me the text, and it was like Gabby trying to calm me down. Jake, don't be alarmed. And I'm going, I don't.
It's like one of his Tourette's is to attack
Yeah.
unsuspecting victims.
Yeah. So this whole podcasting me about this one prank. So I'm like going to you.
Yeah.
Dude, I do not. My friend Muzz is the worst human being.
You were livid.
And he's done this for years. He has pranked me so many times. So he's a senior pastor over this great church in Sydney now.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
killing it. But he has pranked me so many
It's in
times.
Cranula? Is that
No.
what it is?
He's got like there's 3 campuses.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He's out in the west, in the city, and
Dude,
down
I
in
love
Cronulla.
that
Yeah,
guy.
down in the Sutherland Shire. And so he's like just the worst human being in the world. I'm so mad. Okay, Gabby
Doesn't she come to the car and greet
comes
us?
to the car
Yeah.
because she's standing in the parking lot, kind of
Waiting.
just waiting to
How will the Tourette's
to
manifest?
shield the Tourette man from Pastor Tammy. All right. So she's out there, and then my first words to Gabby were like, "Gabby, I don't have Tourette's," and she's kind of confused. I'm like going, my ex-friend James Murray is playing a prank on you.
Oh my god, dude, my cheeks hurt.
No, it gets better. It gets
I
better.
know,
All right.
The punchline is my favorite.
Okay, this is a great punchline.
I'm gonna let you go for it.
So we're like, now Gabby's kind of semi-confused, all right? And we're walking upstairs.
Yeah.
We go into your parents' office, the upstairs office with the kitchen in there. And I can still remember your father being in there, your dad. And your dad is the last legit gospel cowboy.
Yeah.
Nothing phases him. Nothing rattles him. Pastor Jerry's just chilling there.
Just wants to drink a black coffee.
Wants to drink a black coffee and
mentor
have
a
some
businessman.
almond butter
Yeah.
on some bananas.
Yeah.
That's all he's doing. He's just eating his banana and almond butter, I remember. He gets up, and I just walk straight over to Pastor Jerry. I'm so sorry. My friend James Murray was playing a joke on you guys. I don't have Tourette's. And then Pastor Jerry went, I thought it sounded a little strange because I thought that Judah would have brought that up.
Yeah.
Because I was coming from, after speaking with them, coming
Yeah.
down to you. After that, your mother comes in, and she wouldn't come into the room. She stood at the doorway, like, scared. She was standing. She didn't want to come in.
Bro. Wait, you gotta... Okay, no, I'll let you do it.
So she's standing in the doorway. I go over. I give her a hug. Explain that it was a joke. And she just couldn't quite process.
No, she thinks that you telling her you
No,
don't
no,
have
gets-
Tourette's
It gets better.
is a symptom.
No, wait a second.
Of your Tourette's.
That's not even... The punchline's still coming, all right? So she's like kind of little, like overwhelmed, doesn't know if she believes me or not. And then she tells Gabby that if Dan doesn't have Tourette's, then we can stop praying. And then why? Because she had gathered the staff who were like around the building to start praying that I didn't have a Tourette's like ticking attack that night for the event I was doing and over the weekend services. So she kind of told Gabby, hey, just go tell the staff to stop praying now.
Oh my goodness.
And then your mother got upset because I didn't know this, but she told, you do know that I've had 4 sons.
Oh goodness.
And I'm like, no. And this is my first interaction with Tammy McKinney.
Dude, she is unreal. I love her.
And she's telling me that, I think before Jerry, there was another brother, okay? And she just couldn't get her mind around, like, Australians making fun of people with developmental issues.
Because she had a baby that was born with developmental issues that died. Yeah.
So she's crying. I'm like, Muzz, like this guy's, Muzz is the worst guy. So now
She's
Pastor
She's
Tammy,
trying to rationalize, how could you think this
how
is
could you think it
humorous?
was funny? Why are you making fun of developmental issues? I'm like, I didn't do anything. like Muzz thought it'd be funny to tell Gabby that I had Tourette's. And next thing, Tammy's upset at me.
Oh my God.
I'm like, this is the worst start to a relationship with a church that I was hoping to foster for years to come, and Muzz is just blowing the whole thing up, right? So, I get through all of that. Pastor Jerry, this the G that he is, like calms everyone down because like I think this is what's happened. Dan's friend thought he was being funny. It's got nothing to do with Dan. He's sorry, man. Sorry, Dan. We love you. We're excited for this weekend.
Yeah.
And then that night there was a young adults night. That's what I was speaking at. That first thing in
Friday
San Diego.
night, young adults, yeah.
Friday night, young adults, and sitting in the front row is Tammy McKinney and Julia. Yeah. Is that the Disney?
Yeah.
She loves Disney.
Yeah.
Julia and Tammy sitting together, front row. And I think to myself, this is amazing. Like a senior pastor coming to a young adult event. Now this is support. This is believing in the next generation. This is incredible. What I was to learn years later was that the reason Tammy McKinney came, is because she Googled that day about Tourette's, and one of the symptoms of Tourette's is denying you have Tourette's. So she didn't believe me. So she came. And she sat there the whole time just ready to jump up and to take over the meeting and to like calm everyone down.
Oh my
and
God, bro.
And to like subdue the Tourette's with prayer.
Bro, a similar evening, and that is one of my favorite ministry stories of all time. My God. What did you ever say to Muzz?
I called Muzz. I was so mad back then. Before Wi-Fi was a big thing and iPhones were a big thing, you just had an international like phone plan. When you travel internationally, you just pay the money to have an international phone plan. To make a phone call was like $5. I didn't care. I paid the money to call Muzz and tell him that he just threw me under the bus. He laughs at me and hangs up.
Is that like a little bit of an Aussie bent of humor, or is that just him?
Also, Australians.
Because Australians like to get a little bit in a fun way. Like they like to go a little further.
That's the reason when you meet an Australian, you love them.
Yeah.
Because Aussies are laid back. Because Australia was a penal colony.
It was take everything so serious.
It was a prison. So
crazy.
So the history of Australia was the prisons in London were overflowing, so they threw them on boats and sent them down to this giant island in the southern hemisphere.
Go hang out with some dingoes.
So hang out with dingoes and whatever else was like kind of hanging around in Australia in the late 18th century. So the class of people who were coming over were working class people from the East End, the rougher and tougher parts of town, and so that became the identity of Australia. So that's the reason still to this day, even the Australian accent is quite nasally. It's actually it's related to the Cockney accent. Oh, hello, governor. How you doing with a cup of tea? That's the. Whereas New Zealand is different. So New Zealand wasn't a penal colony. New Zealand was a place for people seeking religious freedom, Protestant freedom. That's the reason. And they came from a more middle class upper. So the New Zealand accent is actually a lot more. It's posher, and it's a little bit more Queen's English. So. Aussies are very laid-back people, and they like to joke. They like to tease each other. Now, James Murray, that's not because what he did wasn't because he was Australian. What he did was because he was a bad person. Just in his very core, just a bad, just not a good human being. Like the best in some ways.
Yeah.
Like there isn't another pastor I talk to more than Muzz. Like we talk every couple of days.
I love that.
And I've got this little drive to my golf course that takes 10 minutes. And when I'm driving there, probably 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it equals to his like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning. And so we'll kind of usually catch each other during that time. And so he's like one of my besties.
When's the last time you talked to him about that story?
It comes up all the time, but... It comes up all the time. It's so good.
That is the greatest. It reminded me of a similar story. Gabby was leading young adult ministry, and they had this cool kind of... Do you remember bands like Gunger? Like those kind of... Like Christian kind of folky
Pop
bands.
Punk.
It was kind of like that type of band,
yeah.
and they had come through. They were pretty successful. They come to a young adult night, and after they did their session, the guy was like sharing his testimony on the back lot. And he goes to share his testimony. He basically goes on... It's kind of beautiful because he's brilliant and artistic, and he has the mic. There's probably 55 young adults at the after party under some fire pits, maybe 65. I got the exact number. Yeah. It's really important. But he basically says he doesn't really think you ever get saved. Like, he doesn't really believe in salvation. And Gabby kind of starts trembling, and then he kind of just goes on this dissertation. She's like starting to get frustrated. She's like, "Do you think I should go up?" I'm like, "Is your event? Like, sure, if you want to go up." And she goes to interrupt him, and the dude was so mad.
Yeah, that'll.
Oh man, but those moments with the San Diego staff team were so fun. But there's nothing that comes close to thinking that one of your symptoms of Tourette's was your
Denial
denial
of Tourette's.
and they had to be there on the front row to confirm you weren't gonna say
Tammy
anything
McKinney,
terrible.
who I haven't seen in years, but I guarantee you looks exactly like she did
Yeah,
15 years ago.
yeah,
The ageless Tammy.
indeed.
And so yeah, those were some great ministry
Bro, we had
days,
the
and
best
just
times.
and yeah, we connected. It was that like 2008 2009 kind of time that we really connected.
Yeah, and then I feel like you would come yearly. to
Every
San
year.
Diego. Even,
Yeah, I
even
was-
sometimes twice a year. It felt
I was
like.
coming back from 2007 2008. I was doing 3 or 4 trips to the US a year, just coming back and forth. And I spend some time. I do some speaking up around the Pacific Northwest and up into the like Vancouver, Canada area. Then do some stuff around Southern California. Then I do a swing across to the Southeast, and then would always like intermingle some New York stuff, some Texas stuff. That was for years and years and years. Like 2 or 3 times a
Obviously,
year.
you would now be biased to South Carolina, but if you remove that, if you had to live in any other state or city, or what would be your top ranks here in the U.S. if you had to choose, if you weren't going to
I love living in South Carolina.
Well, I know, that's
South
the
Carolina
winner.
actually is. If I had to do it again, especially where I live in the upstate, like Greenville, South Carolina, Anderson, where I am, Clemson is right next to us as well. That is like a beautiful little triangle, and San Diego is always going to be close to my heart.
Yeah.
I still spend a fair bit of time in San Diego, and if I had to live somewhere in the States, just in one of those quieter southern counties, in San Diego is super cool. But yeah, America is just it's big and beautiful and brash, and there are gorgeous things everywhere to be found. You know, but yeah, really, if I had to live somewhere, I love the soul of the South, but I like the vibes of Southern California.
I do too. It is interesting. I never would have thought I would have left San Diego. Like if you would have asked me back in the day, there would be no reason to leave. But I really enjoy Arizona. It's funny when we first walked in here and you're saying, what did you say about the cactus?
I love a good cactus.
No, but you said, I never thought I liked cactus as much. What did you say? It got me.
No. I'm this morning I sat out here reading my Bible, looking at cactus, just feeling a little emotional. I'm texting buddies. I'm going, dude, I don't know what's going on. I'm just reading my Bible right now.
What were you reading?
This cactus is getting to me. I'm moving through. I do a daily Bible reading plan, and so effectively, right now I'm moving through the book of Deuteronomy. And
For real?
So
Are you doing like a study verse by verse, or
no,
what?
every year I do a different yearly Bible reading plan, just to keep it fresh. Been doing it for years, and this year is a really cool. It's actually a really cool program. This one, where it'll move you just systematically through the Old Testament, and then you'll probably do one chapter in the New Testament, and then a proverb, and then a psalm, a short part of a proverb, and then a whole psalm, and it'll just kind of just move you throughout the course of the year. And yeah, this morning, I lied. We're in the book of Numbers right now.
Okay.
As a church, I do 2 Bible reading plans. Our church has a daily Bible reading plan. It's in Deuteronomy. And but my personal one's in Numbers at the moment.
That's a lot of reading.
It's oxygen, man. It really is. And I'm so glad that when I got saved at 17, the Bible was never thrust on me as a religious thing I needed to do. When I got saved at 17, my friend just told me start reading the Bible and start in the book of John. And I remember reading John 1 and having like my life wrecked and built at the same time. And I can still remember the blue highlighter that I used and the things that just sprung up and came to life. And I'm so grateful that 32 years later, I feel that way. So no, it isn't. So this morning when you were texting me, like, have you got your workout in yet? And not everyone gets this luxury, but I get to center my life around just a pretty stringent rhythm of I will read and I will journal for as long as it takes. a couple of mornings a week where I have to catch an earlier flight, or I've there's one morning a week at church where there are some earlier meetings. But besides that, I just read. And I'm like, this is a really rare day for me to have just a quiet Friday by myself. Usually I spend Fridays with my wife, Krista.
Like with Krista or with me, right?
Or with you, yeah. And I'm like, I'm asking, I turned 49 last week. 50 is around the corner. And then this morning I'm reading there are these frameworks for how Levites, priests, people who work within the church, so to speak, in the Old Testament, how they're meant to operate. And there's like a phrase there that I've read so many times before throughout my life. It just never jumped out. It says, if you're going to serve as a Levite within this space, you start at 25 and you end at 50. And when you go at 50, it doesn't mean you don't work anymore, but now you assist those who are working within the house of God. And I'm like, I'm sitting here looking at a cactus, feeling like I need to cry because I feel God speaking to me through this text that's millennia old. Just about this is the next season of my life. It's going to be, instead of shooting and scoring, about just assisting. Like, what would it look like to play a role on a team that's dream is to help young guys like you thrive, a young evangelist do their thing, a young preacher hone their skill, someone who works with the kingdom givers within their church, how to help them with revelation and leading that kind of community. Like, how can I live my life in my 50s assisting others? And that's just me reading my Bible just on a normal Friday morning, looking at a cactus. And and God does it to me all the time.
Man, it's so beautiful. I think I love the moments, and I'm sure it felt surreal. Even the numbers working and you being 49 sitting here, I could totally feel that.
Yeah.
And sensing God in nature is so fun, because I think for me growing up in church, a lot of the time it kind of felt like I would say from my experience, it was often easier to kind of compartmentalize God to the church building or to the functionality of real ministry, when I sense him so much more everywhere. Yeah. Almost like a Christian mystic would. Like, I look at them like, dude, God made that cactus. This is crazy. But I love what you said, that scripture is like oxygen to you.
Yeah.
I think God has really made that true for my life, where I think previously I would have thought that, spiritual disciplines were maybe good because it makes you more moral. Yeah. And even the temptation to think that God maybe loves me more because I'm doing these things for him. But now as I've aged, like I'm old enough now. I have my 4th kid on the way. I'll be married for 12 years this year. My career has changed 4 or 5 times. I've moved 4 or 5 times. Like, I've just done this long enough. I feel like a veteran follower of Jesus. Not that I've arrived, but just starting to understand, like, I've been doing this for a while. I realize I am so deeply in need of him every day. Yeah. Like, now I like to, similar to you, like, I would have thought, like, guys like you or my dad who are I'm like, you guys are so disciplined. Like, wow, God must be so proud. And I think there's some beauty to admire that in someone who's more senior in faith. But bro, I get up to read scripture with a cup of coffee, not because it makes me more moral, although I think that's a great ancillary benefit, but I do it for the exact same reason you're saying. Like, I need him for survival. I can't be the man I need to be for my wife, for my kids, for business, for myself without Jesus. I need him every day.
Yeah, and
he's oxygen.
And that's the
and he gave us this text to talk to us.
And that's the journey that I think anyone who professes Christianity says that they walk with Jesus. If you do it in a real way, there's this beautiful and consistent unfolding reality that you'll experience your whole journey, and it's equal parts. Wow, I have so much in him, and then at the same time, wow, how much do I need him? And that's just been my walk. I just been walking with Jesus now for 32 years. And I love him more than ever. I'm feeling more loved than ever. And there are some parts of walking with Jesus that is you just gotta bite down and get through it, because that's relationship, that's discipline. That's with any loving relationship you have, you make choices, you make sacrifices. And so to say that doesn't exist within your relationship with Jesus would be a lie.
Mm-hmm.
There are parts of it. There are some times where your body doesn't feel like saying no to something that is tempting. Sometimes your flesh doesn't feel like submitting and surrendering. Sometimes it doesn't feel good to wake up really early in the morning while it's still dark. Sometimes it doesn't feel like the smart thing to do, the best thing to do, just to put that down, just to go to sleep. Like, there are parts of it which is like the Apostle Paul says, I feel like I'm beating up my body. I'm trying to make it my slave. It's trying to push me around. I'm going to push my body around.
Yeah.
There's a part of it. And then there's also a massive part of it where it's just a God who wants to enjoy us and be enjoyed by us. And I'm learning that. And the Bible has been that for me for many, many years. And so you can be around oxygen, but not necessarily breathe it in. And you can breathe in oxygen, but not necessarily breathe it in deep. And that's what I'm trying to do with Scripture. Just, hey, I wanna read and breathe in deep. And there are parts where you'll hit chunks of Scripture, like I've just gone through the book of Leviticus, and there are big swathes of it, which is like, I don't know how much of this about a man who lost his hair that has some crusty stuff and maybe like a pussy pimple with a hair growing out of it. Like there are parts which on the surface don't seem super relevant, but I want to even tell you that you read through the book of Leviticus, you really breathe it in. It wrecks you, dude. Like, Leviticus gets me every single year I read it. Because Leviticus, every single line I read just reminds me of how much Jesus did to get me out of having to do what Leviticus forced the Israelites to do. Or in other words, like you appreciate a gift more when you know someone had to pay so much and do so much to get it to you. And when I'm reminded, like, what human self-righteousness looks like how impossible a task it is to try to purify yourself before a pure God. That's what Leviticus does for me. So I breathe Leviticus deep in, and that makes me appreciate grace more. So, yeah, that's what I did this morning. Just sat around looking at cactuses, cacti. I don't know what the plural is, but there's...
Yeah, I think it's cacti. And I don't know enough, but I feel like these are called saguaro. Or maybe not, actually. I don't even know. I just know that's one of them.
Dude, I'm telling you, like yesterday, that my driver from the airport coming in...
Did you fly into Tucson?
I flew into Tucson, and...
I've never been in that airport.
It's a little airport.
Yeah.
But the guy driving me out loved him some cactus. Because he was telling me all about cactus and the pH levels of cactus and the toxicity of cactus.
Was it an Uber or?
It was a driving service.
Okay.
And, a guy in a suit telling me about...
Did you ask him, or did he?
I did not ask him. No. I said, I did make the comment, like, wow, the cactus here are beautiful. And then he just turns and he goes, are you interested in cactus? And I went, you know what? I am.
Yes.
And all the different varieties of cactus, some of the well-known myths about cactus that aren't true.
Dear God.
That every single arm they say is like another 100 years. He says that's not true. That's not true. Like this. And he was educating me about cactus.
Oh my God. What was his name?
And Daniel was his name.
What a guy.
Dan and Daniel rolling in the black car.
Dude, let's go.
Out towards Dove Mountain, talking about cactus.
My goodness.
If you're in the desert and you're like dehydrated, there is a way to extract water from cactus.
Did he tell you how?
But there's much more involved because it's so acidic, it'll make you sick. Apparently, this is what I got told.
So what are you supposed to do?
You can like boil things and evaporate, and you can do that. So I'm like, I just rather lay down and die. You know what? It's my time. It's my time.
Dude, that is
Jesus, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, see you soon, Lord.
I can't deal with this cactus right
hands,
now.
I commit my spirit.
Yeah, bro, I can't deal with this cactus right now. My hands are full of like spikes. I'm trying to boil something, evaporate something.
Oh my God.
Catch the condensation. Hey, you know what? To live is Christ. To die is gain.
Bro. Dude, have you ever gotten cactus spikes stuck in you?
One time. Golfing.
It's the worst.
Golfing in Vegas. And I tried to play a little punch-out shot and a little close to a cactus. My hand brushed against the cactus, and I'm talking a basquillion spikes went into my hand. It was like brushed. And
Oh my God.
don't play with the cactus, bro.
No. Dude, actually, I had a buddy from a really beautiful church called Love Church in Omaha. His name is Mike O'Connell. OC, I love you if you're watching. Probably not. But anyway, he was in town and he had his kids and my kids, and we met up at this really cool park right by downtown Phoenix. It's one of those parks that has like turf hills for kids to run on, and like the play structures are much more like wooden, kind of feels a little bit like Montessori or something. So just beautiful, beautiful architecture. And there's a couple of these kind of rolling turf hills that kids would kind of use as a slide. And one of his kids grabs a cactus that looks like it has no spikes. She's kind of moving it around, and she just, being a 5-year-old, just chucks it down this hill. Next thing you know, all the kids, it's like we have a mob. Like all 5 kids are sliding everywhere, and they all start screaming, crying, and we run over to them, and they just have cactus all over them. And my oldest was in jeans, but my youngest at the time, was probably 4, was in shorts, bro. I had to go to the car. Thank God I had tweezers. I probably pulled like 35 cactus spikes out of his little butt. It was the worst. So I can't. I'm just look at him. God, if you find me in the desert, I didn't try to drink. I'm good.
Wow.
Those things are crazy.
That'll preach.
It will.
That'll preach one day. Just imagine how you felt when you had to remove 35 little cactus spikes out of your son. That'll preach on an Easter weekend.
Oof.
In fact, the book of Isaiah said that it delighted God to allow his son to go through that because of what it would win. And so
where is that in Isaiah?
Look it up. It was actually one of my old preaching mentors, one of my so just Google it delighted God to crush his son, Isaiah.
That's so beautiful.
It delighted him to crush.
It's Isaiah 53:10.
Yep.
What translation would you choose? Pull it up.
Man, it's I use the NIV personally, but
you've always used NIV, right?
Yeah.
Preach from NIV. I remember one of the first times I ever heard you preach, you had like kind of a pocket Bible.
Yeah.
And you walked
Still
up.
use it. Yeah.
And you never opened it, and you never looked at a note, and you quoted like what felt maybe 15 scriptures verbatim, word for word, and I was like, dude, this guy is the gospel ninja.
Yeah.
It was so dope. I feel like I kind of rotate. I like to have a bunch of paper Bibles and kind of jump in and through them. But I got my Uncle Wendell. Did you ever meet my Uncle Wendell before he passed?
He's a hero of mine.
Dude, he's the best. I have his old Bible, like the last Bible he used for like the last 10 years of his life. It's so fun. So I've been reading a lot of New King James as a result of that. If
I had Wendell's old Bible, I would switch to the NKJV.
Bro.
The only time I have straight just missed the flight was one of the last times I saw Pastor Wendell.
No way.
In all my years of flying, I count on one hand how many flights I've missed.
Wait, I want to read the scripture, but tell me the story first, because I love hearing stories about my uncle.
Best human being.
The greatest.
The
Huge
best.
college football fan too.
The best. Like, it was. I aspire to be the kind of man who, trust me, Wendell Smith right now doesn't care that much about how he's remembered because he sees Jesus face to face. Okay, so I'm not consumed with living a life that
like having
leaves such a legacy and oh my goodness, people are going to weep and cry for years. No, they'll forget. But I do hope that the small things they do remember what it was that I was kind and that I really loved Jesus, and the thought of him loving me made me weep. And that's like Wendell. I remember because I met Judah 2006. I was working at a church called City Life Church in Melbourne, Australia. Kevin Connor, Mark Connor, the son. So Mark's my boss, and then I remember one time Mark's like, "I'm gonna have this young guy out to speak. He's preaching up in Sydney. Then we're gonna have him down for the weekend." And he's great, and you need to start youth 1 week early. The start of the school year starts at the end of January. He wanted our youth ministry to start 1 week early so this young guy could come and preach. So I'm kind of like a little frustrated. Like we've already got our scheduling, we've already done all the printing. It's like kind of, this is the old days before social media.
I know you said we've done our scheduling and our printing.
You had to print. Everyone would get like a calendar.
What year was this?
This is 2006.
Wow.
All right. And then I still remember.
You had no iPhones in 2006.
No, the iPhones were just kind of starting to.
But it wasn't like ubiquitous.
No,
it was like
wasn't,
it would be maybe 1 out of every 20 people.
Like a really cool person would have. Oh my goodness, you got an iPhone.
And they didn't even have full internet in the beginning. It wasn't like the full breadth of going to websites.
No FaceTiming
and
or
mobile
video
websites
calling.
Didn't really work.
Nah, it was another day and age.
Yeah.
Just past dial-up internet. We're kind of just moving past that time.
Yeah. So
Mark gives me a DVD of this young preacher who's going to come.
This is the best story.
And it's Judah. And he spends the first 5 minutes talking about his hair and shopping. And I'm like, I just turn it off. This is terrible. This is just the worst thing ever. Add insult to injury. Friday comes around and he's preaching at our youth ministry. Mark calls me early that morning, says, are you picking him up from the airport? I said, I'm sending a couple of the interns to pick him up. He said, no, you're going to go down and pick him up from the airport. Okay. So I'm kind of like now grumpy.
Yeah.
I've got to drive out and pick up this guy who can't preach from the airport to speak at my youth ministry that I've got to start a week early.
Yeah.
And so we go down, and it was him and Damon Strom.
No way.
Him and Damon.
Let's go.
And still to this day, the only time Judah has ever been on the edge, not impolite, but on the edge of just being a little quiet, was that afternoon. Mm-hmm. He had a really sore neck, and he just was quiet, and he just jumped into the back seat and just didn't engage. So I'm sitting in the car driving,
talking to Damon.
Judah doesn't say a word, and then I won't tell you the full story because this might get told again. I might get cancelled for it. But there was
Well, tell me after the pod.
I'll tell you afterwards. But there was a piece of public art that we drove past.
Okay.
And he asked about it.
Okay.
And he just thought my response to his question was quite funny. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of became friends.
Oh my God. You can't forget after.
Just from this interaction, he's like going, dude, like, you got to come and speak at GC camp next year. So, okay, cool. And so that's how I ended up there. Yeah. And Wendell Smith drove me around for that whole first camp.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What a G.
In this old silver Mercedes-Benz. Like,
dude,
he was the driver.
Yeah.
And that's as close to a saint as I'd come across. And then, so coming back and forth a few times after that. And then before he passed, I remember I was preaching up there in the Seattle area. And Judah was taking me back to the airport. Mm-hmm. And then his dad texted him and said, hey, I'd love to say hey to Dan. So Judah's like going, we can just whip past. Because I think he was staying like in an apartment somewhere closer into the city. Mm-hmm. And he said, if we go there, there's a chance that we'll miss the flight. It's really close. And I said, we have to go do this. So we went, and then I sat down. I remember having this chat with him, and him just like encouraging me to keep on going. He said, I got 3 pieces of advice I want to give you. He gave me 3 pieces of advice. And then I remember Judah going, like, we got to go. And I'm like, nah. So I just blew straight through the flight, and then we had to find another flight that night to get out.
To Oz?
I think I was preaching somewhere else. I think I was heading down to San Francisco. I was going south, and we found another flight and got in later. But just sat there with Wendell for like an hour.
Such an OG.
Yeah, he's a legend. So you want to read your scripture?
Yeah, dude. And
Isaiah.
His Bible has been so fun. He has so many notes. Like he has a note from like Dodie Osteen in there.
Oh my.
It's like and all these little. It's so dope. Okay, so it was Isaiah. I'll read it in the NIV first, then we'll go Wendell Smith. Isaiah 53:10. It says, "Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him, and cause him to suffer.
Yep.
And then the Lord makes his life an offering for sin. He will see his offspring prolong his days.
Yep.
And the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand."
The King James says, pleased.
Let's see it. I'm excited. Thank you, version.
Come
We're
on,
grateful,
YouVersion.
bro. So powerful. Let's go. It's crazy that it's like the most popular app of all time too. Of course, is the greatest book. But what are the you would probably know this, the records they stopped keeping for how the Bible is sold more than any other book?
No, you can't. It's
like the numbers are idiotic.
there's something miraculous about it.
I think.
So I was saying.
Wait, let me read this, and then I want to hear you say it. Let me read it. Okay, sorry. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He has put him to grief. When you make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper his hand. But talk about the book.
Well, just so it pleased.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about like the profound pain you felt seeing your son pierced with even like a tiny.
I got
spike.
teary-eyed. He was like shivering. His little 4-year-old body just covered in these.
But so great is God's love for humanity that in his heart, as horrific a feeling as it would have been to see your beloved son crucified, juxtapose that to how great his love is for us and the excitement in Father's heart to see humanity redeemed. The Bible says it pleased God when Jesus endured what he had to endure. And that pleasing's got there's nothing callous, there's nothing cold, because that is not God. There's nothing apathetic or nonchalant about this. No, it's the extremity of God's love for us.
Mm-hmm.
That when he saw Jesus go through what he went through, there was somehow through all of that some pleasing in heart, knowing what it could win for him, us. So, yeah. Anyway, back to Cactus Guy was like asking him, because I said, "What are you doing?" Because I'm speaking at this thing up here, and this fellowship with Christian athletes and and he says this, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, I've been to church before," and then he goes, "I don't really buy the Bible. I think the Bible is a book club that got out of control. That some people wrote some stuff, and then just too many people started believing it. Then everyone started believing it, and then I said, oh yeah, I can see that. But there's something more to the Bible. There's something miraculous about it, because ain't no book club done this before.
No,
I mean, and there's been a book club that's been as attacked, as scrutinized, as picked apart, as pulled apart, as systematically dismantled by cultures and governments, but still this Bible thing keeps on living and thriving and growing. I told my cactus friend that you can hold that perspective. For me personally, that doesn't hold faith weight or logical weight, because the Bible is something more. Mm-hmm. I told him I'm not trying to tell you exactly what you need to believe the Bible to be. You have to draw that conclusion. But I'm telling you, I found it to be a miraculous book that comes from the heart and the mouth of God. And
what was his response?
He was like blown. It was like it was a long drive. I think he actually took a longer drive because he was interested in the conversation. When I got into the car, it read 35 minutes on his Google map, and it took us 50 minutes to get here.
Wow. And
we took 2 U-turns. So he either got very engrossed in the conversation and got lost, or which has happened before, people just take detours because they like chatting.
Bro, it's so beautiful. It is really interesting for me to now have been around Jesus and been around ministry and been around scripture for so long, to look at just the historical significance of the book. Like, if you want to, for a moment, suspend the belief that it is actually miraculous and has spiritual dimension and truth, but just to look at the historical significance of the book being undeniable. There's never been anything as preserved as this, as consistent. There's never anything dated with this much. And if you look at every story, every TV show, every novel, it's all borrowed concepts from what's in this book. Like all the narratives, David and Goliath, you can go on and on and on. Yeah. It's the most beautiful book. Even if you don't think it was written by God or through God, there is no book that can possibly compare to Scripture.
There's something about it.
It's different. It stands alone. It's in a category of its own. Whether you call it a history book, whether you call it an ancient book of religion, whatever you want to call it, it is completely different. The scale is different.
Yeah, and all these years into my journey with Jesus, I still feel like I'm scratching the surface. Like, as much as I've studied and as much as I've talked about it, like, I'm just scratching. But I feel that's okay. I feel like if I go to my grave with just a whole bunch of scratch marks, my life would have been so much better for it.
I feel, or I would say, I think more believers that I would know that are seasoned like you, like you're staring at 50, have all said the longer they've followed Jesus and the more they've read scripture, they feel like there's more to search, that you know less.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is so beautiful to me. It's like you don't really arrive here.
Yeah.
It's this constant receptivity to Jesus as he just reveals. He just changes.
That's where
his
all
character.
theology should terminate.
What do you mean?
Theology is like the theos, the study of God.
Yeah.
Study of theos. All right. So when you start diving in the ocean, like, you do it for the rest of your life, the better diver you become, the more you realize that, whoa, we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. I physically can't even get to even 1 percentile of how deep this really is before my entire being explodes. But it's cool. So that's what scares me, is when people who study theology come out the other side with, I'm not talking about orthodoxy. I'm not talking about having stances. I'm not talking about having beliefs. I'm not talking about having lines in the sand which you say this is truth and this is false. That's what in many ways the New Testament was written, trying to call out things that were false, that were creeping into the church. No problem.
Can you
with that.
talk more about that?
Heresy, errancy, strange humanistic philosophy that sounds very theological and spiritual, but that's not Jesus. That's much of the New Testament was written in response to erroneous thinking. Mm-hmm. So it's absolutely reasonable. It's actually our responsibility as believers to know what we believe and why we believe it. Okay, there is orthodoxy. There is the weight of 2,000 years of history and what is being held as truth, and it should be held as truth for the next 2,000 years. So that exists. At the same time, there's mystery, because you're studying God. You're delving in God. You're diving into God. And there should always be mystery. So when people study theology and they come out the other side with no mystery, like, this is how it works, and it can be all explained in this, this, and this, and I've got a really cool acrostic here and an acronym here, and oh no, but this person can't be a Christian because they don't do this and this. So well, time out, buddy, because there's mystery to it. And you study the chronological writings of Paul. Okay, so the Apostle Paul, charged with writing much of the New Testament. You'd think that the way that it would track would be, he would start his writings with this: I'm a young dude, just new in this game, just trying to make my way through, and oh man, hey, I, the Apostle Paul, just vibing with the church, just trying to get to know, find my feet, and hey, here I am, I'm a co-laborer with Christ. I'm a co-heir in the. You'd think it would start at immature and then end with, here I am, a grandpa G, and I've arrived. It's inverted. When you actually study the chronological, most scholars believe what comes in order. He starts off as, I'm out here, co-heir with Christ, co-laborer in the kingdom, and then he goes like, I'm an apostle, albeit the least of apostles, and I'm a sinner, and I'm the chief of sinners. And then it goes the other direction to the point where his last probably writing was 2 Timothy, his farewell letter to his spiritual son. And he's like going, I'm a splash of wine, dude. That's all I am. I'm a splash of wine on the altar. I'm about to evaporate. That's it. That's the way that our lives should track. When you journey with Jesus, the bigger he becomes. What he says at the end of 2 Timothy? 2 Timothy chapter 4. That's what he says. I'm being poured out. My time for my departure is near. I'm being poured out like a drink offering. That's all he is. He goes from, I am the co-laborer. I'm like, me and Jesus and I, we homies, and we doing this thing together. To the very end, he's like going, dude, I'm a little bit of wine poured out. That's all I am, dude. And that's how it's meant to be.
Wow.
The longer you go with Jesus, the more you're convinced of how big he is and how beautifully small you are, how much he has and how little you do.
Absolutely.
And ironically, that's what creates the greatest power and punch in your life.
Bro, I'm so glad you went there because I wanted to talk about 2 Corinthians 12:9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have found everything you're saying to be so accurate for my life. I think I had thought I had so much more sorted out. And to the point I made before, I just feel like the older I get, the more I realize, like, dude, I don't have this together. Like, I don't have this all sorted out. And that's really not even my job. My job is just to trust Jesus and just to follow Jesus. And it kind of is that simple. Obviously, there's things, to your point earlier, too. You know, getting up and doing things you don't want to do because it's the right thing is absolutely beautiful. It's part of being a grown man. It's part of being a grown-up. But the way that Paul articulates who he is with Jesus as an apostle, and as he starts to just realize he's less and less, the splash of wine comment is going to sit with me for a while. I thank you for that. It's absolutely beautiful. But I want to go back to 2 Corinthians 12:9 because I remember this would have been probably maybe 2016. Like, I'm right in the middle of youth ministry, loving it. You had come to speak at some youth event, and like we always do, we're going to Jimbo's, we're going to Julian, we're getting apple pie, we're working out, we're getting Chick-fil-A breakfast after a workout. That's the best, right? And I forgot exactly what I asked you. We're talking about youth ministry. I think you had commended me. You're like, bro, I'm so proud of you for doing this. And I asked you something along these lines, like, if you had to search some depth of scripture you didn't know, or if God could reveal like some more aspect of this portion of the word or your relationship with him, what would it be? And you said, I wish that I could fully understand what Paul wrote there when he said that there's a thorn in his side, and 3 times he asked Jesus to take it away, and 3 times Jesus says, no, my power is made perfect. My grace is sufficient in your weakness. And so Paul goes on to say, therefore I'm going to boast about my weakness. For he basically is saying my weakness is a portal to the strength of Jesus. And it's interesting because that has stuck with me forever. Like, it comes up every time I think of that scripture, and every time I think about pain and suffering as it means following Jesus. Or I think about 1 Peter 5:6, where I can see Peter in denying Jesus, and then I can see him as John 21 when Jesus goes to make him some fish over the fire, and he brings him in, and 3 times he reconfirms who Peter is. And I see Peter in 1 Peter 5:6. I feel like directly talking about it. After your brief suffering, the God of all peace, Jesus, is going to set your feet. And then I look at 2 Corinthians 12, Peter saying, okay, I don't have all this or not Peter, Paul saying, I don't have all this together. I have these weaknesses, but Jesus is telling me his grace is sufficient. It's interesting because there's been moments in my life where I thought like, oh, Dan didn't figure it out, but maybe I did. Yeah. And bro, I'm not kidding you, even over the last year, because I thought I was like, oh, I kind of get it. It's thrown me for a loop all over again. And so I want to take the opportunity to ask you again, what is your consideration of that passage, and take that wherever you'd like. I'm super curious.
Yeah, I can't remember that Chick-fil-A conversation.
It was a good one.
But I've had that many times because it's the dichotomy of Christianity, like 2 things being true at the same time is something which is, how can Paul, he wrote 2 Corinthians chapter 12, because the background is this. He goes, I'm a baller, man. I'm like, I seen third heaven. You're like kind of even wondering if there's a first. Well, I went through second and I checked into third. And then he says, but to keep me from getting conceited, or in other words, to make sure that I didn't lose my mind through pride. Jesus allowed for me a thorn in my side. And so 2 things can be true at the same time right now. You can be, Paul was as mature a minister, as prophetic a preacher, as powerful a pastor as there was. At the same time, he was fully aware that there were cracks in his life that were deliberately left by God to make sure that for the rest of his days, he would never depart from his friend Jesus. That passage has been a passage that I have reflected on for many a night and many a morning throughout the years. And where it sits in my life right now is just simply, like you said, how the pain in our life, the stuff that we look in the mirror and see and go, God, why don't you just take this away? It's not a condemnation. It's an invitation to go, all right, this is how much I need you, Jesus. It's not empty space that will never be filled. It's actually just the platform where God gets to build his most beautiful, this grace-marked things. The fractures in our life are actually the guarantees and the assurances in our life that if we allow God to work, we will never get to a point where people look at our lives and think that we did it. You know, it's always going to be, oh, it's the grace of God. And so for me, I've one of the great challenges for me, I love how he says, therefore I'm going to delight my weaknesses. I'm going to boast in my weakness. He does two things in response to this thorn in his side. He delights and he boasts. He does two things. Delight is internal. So internally, I'm going to just, I'm going to lean into God more and just trust him that, hey, you know what? But by the grace of God. And I'm going to boast as well. That's publicly. That means the last thing the world needs is another pastor who makes it sound like that. It's that life is easy and that you've got it all together. We just need people who are real. In this fake, faux, filtered world, like authenticity is the new currency. Like if you can show, and authenticity isn't how you appear, it's actually a genuine fruit that comes from just being who you are. And I just love the fact that Paul's response to this thorn in his side was, so inwardly I delight. I go, thank you, God, but by your grace. People might have opinions about me, but I know that I find myself just cracked and humble before you, but by your grace. And then I also boast in my weaknesses. I'm okay with telling people that life gets scary. I'm okay with telling people that I deal with anxiety too. I'm okay with telling people that the same pressure you feel, I feel all the time. And then God uses that as well for his glory. And so, yeah, that passage has been one of many that I've chewed on throughout the years. And but that's what I'm trying to do in the light of that. How do I delight internally that drives me more towards a trust in him? And how do I boast more publicly that helps people know that you don't have to have it together to find yourself interacting with Jesus?
I feel like specifically for the last 2 years, it's been the hardest years I've ever had financially, because I built a business, and we've talked a little bit about this, but it takes a lot to pioneer something. And I have begged and plotted and tried everything to be in a really comfortable position. I think for me, having not taken on any outside investment and just to try to build from the ground up, and a wonderful team. It's not me. It's obviously the grace of God and a team, but I get to lead it. And there are so many moments, bro, and it's so full circle even to be here with you talking about this passage, where all I can really come back to over and over. And it's not even just like I figured it out. It's a couple of years ago. It's like even the last couple of weeks where I'm like, again, I got to circle this same thing again. Like, God, please take this away. Like, please help me. Yeah. And I don't feel as though the Holy Spirit is grieved or my Heavenly Father is upset that I'm begging for him to change these things. But even just sitting here with you again today, I forgot about the delighted part. And I feel like I literally just had coffee with a friend, really wonderful pastor. His name is Preston Morrison, Pillar Church, if you ever heard of it, in Scottsdale. Dude, he's incredible. Just had coffee with him like 2 or 3 days ago. And every time I have coffee with him, he has this wonderful grace on his life. He's almost your age, like 46 maybe.
He's a good friend of my friend Tim Ross, yeah? That's that.
Yeah,
Tim's buddy. Yeah.
I haven't met Tim, but he seems awesome.
I've never met Preston. Yeah.
Oh my God, Preston's incredible, bro. He has this wonderful way about him, and I think it's his grace zone. It's like he can be as shrewd as a serpent and as gentle as a dove. And I'm talking about basically this meandering journey that is my life. Like, I would have thought I'd be in ministry this whole time. And then also sometimes I feel like what I'm doing is still ministry. I'm like, where's calling or whatever? Yeah. And it just basically circles back to my life hasn't looked the way that I thought it would look at this point. And ultimately what that means for me is the suffering or the pain that I've gone through just as a human, but also as a believer, as a follower of Jesus, has just made me more reliant on him over and over. And I can't help but say this I think I said it on every pod. Matt is my witness recently, but have you listened to Chandler Moore's Live in Los Angeles album?
I have not, no.
You know who he is from Mavericks.
Yeah.
Incredible, Gyra. But on one of the songs he sings, he goes back into that one song that they had that was really big with Stephanie Gretzinger, Refiner.
Okay.
And as he's singing it, he's going, he says out loud in the way he uniquely can. He obviously so gifted by God to do what he does. He goes, that's a dangerous prayer. That's a dangerous prayer. Talking about asking God to refine you. And just over the conversations I've had this week, I can almost see, and even us laughing about these old times in San Diego, I see the way that God kind of orchestrates life. I prayed all those kinds of prayers as a kid. I prayed those prayers with you at youth events.
Yeah.
Like, God, refine me. God, use me. And it's interesting because I really do feel like the grace of God on my life has dwindled me down in a very difficult but beautiful way, to where I just realize I need him so desperately. And I have a new charge today. And I think even over the last couple of days, it shifted where not only do I recognize that I'm suffering or going through a difficult time here and there, but like I have the opportunity to delight in that, because it's a reminder that God's in control. And I actually kind of feel like related, and it's not the exact same because I'm not being accosted and persecuted the way that the early church fathers were in Acts. But remember in Acts where it says when they started to suffer for Christ, they were glad to share in the suffering of Jesus. I feel in my own way, as now a grown man, I'm married for 12 years this year. It's crazy. Like I still so often feel like that 17-year-old kid that's just, even on my way here, I'm like that 17-year-old going to pick up Dan to go speak at youth camp. But I'm just so grateful for you, bro, for the example you've been. And for that moment, and that scripture has been such a sustainer for me, specifically on my meandering journey. The name Wendell, actually, one of the meanings is like one who wanders, or like wanders with God, which is so beautiful. Yeah. And it's wonderful, bro. I appreciate you. And talking about that specific scripture, that was the one thing I had in my mind I have to bring up because it's always been impactful to me.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the saying that all who wander are not lost. And that's the thing I love about you, man. That's your entire life. You have been inquisitive, and you've been brave enough to leave well-trod paths to dig around the terrain and to find beautiful things. And even though sometimes you feel it, you're not. Father is closer than you know. Yeshua is right around the corner, and you're not lost. You're smack bang exactly where Jesus would have you be. And I'm proud of you, man. The way that you're growing your business and dreaming and leading your family and loving Amy and raising great children. This is all a part of this beautiful time-stamped gift that God gives us. And you're doing it, man. You're doing it. And so, hey, keep on dreaming and keep on pushing and keep on rejecting the path of least resistance. The one that makes most logical sense, that gets you into comfort fastest. You know, keep on living a life that prays that God would disturb you, and you're doing it. So, I love you, bro.
Love you more. It's interesting. The last thing you said. Keep on praying prayers that in life that God will disturb you. I definitely stopped praying those prayers. I'm like, no more.
Yeah, and it is. It's a.
Have you seen that reel? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. It's the easiest thing to say, the hardest thing to do, but I'm telling you, the greatest experience. You see, when you get to my age, and you can now, if you do any level of reflection on your journey, and you start seeing how God bats 1,000 when it comes to the best parts of your life being connected to the times you are most uncomfortable. Then something logically clicks in your head where you're going, okay, as hard as that is to pray, and as counterintuitive as it is to desire, God, shake me. You know, that's the season I'm in right now. Coming into my 50s, I do not want to And God did it in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and he'll do it in my 50s by his grace. He'll shake us again. That's the reason we moved to the States when I was 40. And we packed 12 suitcases, and we bought one-way tickets, and we moved to Anderson, South Carolina, from Melbourne, Australia. Most livable city in the world, to the second most unlivable state in the US. Like literally, we're like kind of like these.
What a juxtaposition.
Yeah, but we wanted the discomfort, and that's where you're living. That's where you're living.
He's placed me here. That is with certainty.
And the grand scheme of things as well. The reality is, dude, you're hanging out in the Ritz-Carlton right now with some pearls, pearls around your neck. Yeah. Okay, you're drinking as bougie Essentia water out here. You got a producer.
One of our sponsors, Essentia, not a sponsor, but you could.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as uncomfortable as we sometimes feel, we're blessed, bro.
Oh, bro, we're so blessed. We're so blessed. We have this new segment we like to end the pod, so if you don't mind, just look at this camera. I actually think what you were saying to me, I think could be a really good blessing. Take this any way you want, but I think talk to someone who maybe needs to dream again in whatever context. I think the majority of people who'd probably enjoy our content through the radio would definitely be followers of Jesus, but most certainly, ideally, there would be some who are unfamiliar that might be attracted to him through these conversations. That'd be beautiful. Yeah. But probably someone kind of church adjacent, Jesus follower, maybe they're an entrepreneur or a creative pastor, but who needs to dream again, but they're fearful to do so. Because I think that you were on a nugget there that I think could be wonderful.
Yeah, speak a blessing.
Yeah.
I bless you with the ability to dream again. I pray that you experience the love of a heavenly, approving Father who is telling you, go for it. I gave you gifts. I gave you a resource. I protected you up to this point. So why would I want to hold you back from running as far and as wide in this glorious territory that I've set aside for you? So wander off the path. Go explore the lands. Jump off a cliff. He'll catch. Scrape your knees a few times. He'll heal. But whatever you do, don't go to your last chapter in your journey. Do not breathe your last without exhausting all of the adventure this life was meant to be.
Bro, I received that. Thank you, bro. I love you so much.
I love you, man.
Embrace me. Wonderful. You're the man. Dan Lian, the heavenly man.
Hey.